Retirement on $1,000 a month. I actually did it. You know what they say? They say you need $1 million to retire comfortably in America. They say it's impossible to live on just Social Security. And they definitely say you can't retire on $1,000 a month. Well, I'm here to tell you they're wrong. I actually did it, and I'm going to show you exactly how. This isn't some fantasy. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme or a magic financial trick. This is my real life. I'm not a trust fund baby. I didn't hit the lottery, and I certainly didn't have a seven-figure nest egg. What I did have was a modest Social Security check, a whole lot of determination, and a refusal to believe that a happy, dignified retirement was out of my reach. If you've ever laid awake staring at the ceiling, wondering how in the world you're going to make it, this is for you. If you've ever felt that knot in your stomach when the so-called experts talk about the millions you're supposed to have, this is for you. I'm pulling back the curtain on everything. I'll tell you the exact low-cost state I moved to. I'll walk you through my budget line by line, and I'll share the lifestyle hacks, the small, smart choices that made this impossible goal a reality. Stick with me, because what I'm about to share could change how you think about your own retirement. The problem and my story. Like so many of you, I was terrified I'd never be able to retire. For years, I did everything I was supposed to. I worked hard, paid my bills, and tried to tuck a little away here and there. But life happens, right? An unexpected layoff in my late 50s, a medical bill insurance didn't quite cover, the rising cost of, well, everything. My savings, which were never a mountain to begin with, started looking more like a molehill that got smaller every year. The whole idea of retirement felt less like a golden horizon and more like a cliff I was slowly being pushed towards. The message from everywhere was the same. You need more, more, more. Financial advisors on TV, articles online, even friends and family. It was a constant chorus of fear. It felt like if you didn't have a huge portfolio, you were just doomed to work until you dropped or face a retirement of poverty. I remember the day it hit me the hardest. I was 63, sitting at my kitchen table with a pile of bills and a calculator. I looked at my projected Social Security statement, did the math, and my heart just sank. It was going to be about $1,200 a month. After they took out the Medicare premium, I was looking at a little over $1,000. $1,000 to live on in the United States. It felt like a cruel joke. My rent alone was more than that. How could anyone do it? The fear was real. It was this cold, heavy weight in my chest. Fear of being evicted. Fear of not affording food. Fear that one single unexpected thing, like a car repair or a broken tooth, would completely wipe me out. I felt trapped. For a while, I just gave up and figured I'd have to keep working my part-time retail job forever. The dream of having my own time, of reading books and gardening, and just enjoying a quiet life, that seemed like a fantasy for other people. But then, something inside me shifted. Maybe it was just stubbornness. Maybe it was a spark of defiance. I got angry. I was mad at a system that makes hardworking people feel so scared. And I decided I wasn't going to be a victim. I was going to find a way. My goal was simple, but it felt huge. I wouldn't just survive on my Social Security. I would thrive. I would build a life that wasn't just cheap, but genuinely happy. That decision kicked off a journey of intense research, being brutally honest with myself about my needs versus my wants, and completely rethinking what a good life even meant. This wasn't about sacrifice. It was about strategy. It wasn't about giving things up. It was about finding smarter ways. I spent months, almost a year, with spreadsheets, library books, and endless Google searches. I basically became an expert in the geography of being broke in America. I was going to find a way, and that determination lit the path forward. 1. The location. The first, biggest, and most important piece of the whole puzzle is location. You just can't retire on $1,000 a month in New York City or Los Angeles. You can't even do it in a medium-priced suburb. You have to be willing to move. For me, this was the biggest leap of faith, but it was also the most freeing decision I ever made. My search wasn't random. I had a strict checklist. I needed a state with a rock-bottom cost of living, retiree-friendly tax laws, and a pace of life that felt right. I started by Googling the most affordable states to retire in. The same names kept popping up: Alabama, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Arkansas. These places have living costs way below the national average. So, I made a spreadsheet and started comparing. The first thing I filtered for was taxes. This is a huge deal that people forget. A state might have cheap houses, but if it taxes your Social Security or has sky-high property taxes, it's a trap. I quickly learned some states are way friendlier to a fixed income. For example, Mississippi doesn't tax any retirement income at all. No Social Security tax, no 401k tax, nothing. Alabama also leaves Social Security alone and has some of the lowest property taxes in the whole country. That was a giant green flag. Next up, housing. This was my biggest expense, so it had to be low. I wasn't just looking at state averages. I was digging into specific small towns and rural areas. Even in cheap states, the main cities were too expensive. I was on rental websites for weeks, looking at actual listings for one-bedroom apartments. I needed real numbers, not just vague articles. After weeks of comparing everything from utility bills to the price of milk, I narrowed it down to 2 states: Alabama and Mississippi. Both were incredibly affordable. Mississippi's cost of living is about 21% lower than the US average. Alabama is right behind it, about 16% lower. In the end, I chose a small town in Alabama. Let's just call it Harmony Creek. You won't find it on any best places to retire lists in fancy magazines, and that's exactly why it works. It's a quiet, friendly town of about 15,000 people. It's got a grocery store, a library, a small hospital, a few churches, and a community center. It has everything I actually need. Why Alabama over Mississippi? Honestly, it was a gut feeling. I found a specific apartment complex that felt right, and I liked the scenery a little bit more. But I could have made it work just as well in a similar town in Mississippi. The key is to look at these southern and midwestern states that give you that 1-2 punch of cheap housing and friendly tax laws. Moving was my way of taking back control. I sold or gave away most of my furniture, which was surprisingly freeing, and packed everything I owned into my small car. I was leaving a city where I was constantly drowning in financial stress for a place where I could finally breathe. Was it scary? Of course. But the fear of the unknown was a lot less terrifying than the certainty of struggling if I stayed. Finding Harmony Creek was the cornerstone of my entire plan. Without the move, retiring on $1,000 a month would have stayed an impossible dream. It proved to me that for a low-income retirement, where you live is the most important question. 2. The budget. All right, here's the part you've been waiting for. The brass tacks, the actual numbers. This isn't a guess. This is what I really spend every month. It might be a little shocking to see it laid out. It's lean, no doubt, but it's real. And for me, it's completely sustainable. My total monthly income, after Medicare is taken out of my Social Security, is about $1,050. I budget for an even $1,000 and try to tuck that extra $50 away for emergencies. Here's the breakdown. Housing and utilities, $550. This is the big one. It's the foundation, and it's where moving to Alabama really pays off. Rent, $475. No, that's not a typo. That's my actual rent for a clean, safe, one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. Finding rent under $500 is the absolute key to making this work. It's not easy. I had to hunt, make a lot of calls, and I was on a waiting list for 2 months. But it is possible in small towns in states like these. My place isn't fancy. It's about 650 square feet with a small kitchen, a living room, a bedroom, and a bathroom. But it's my peaceful little sanctuary. Electricity, $45. My apartment is small, and I'm a hawk about my usage. I keep the thermostat at 78 in the summer and 68 in the winter. I unplug things I'm not using. It all adds up. Water, sewer, trash, $30. This is a flat rate from my apartment complex. Renter's insurance, $0. Okay, this is a calculated risk. To get my housing cost as low as humanly possible, I've skipped renter's insurance. It's a personal choice, and I know it's a risk, but it's a trade-off I made to make the numbers work. Total, $550. This is 55% of my income. I know financial experts say you should only spend 30% on housing, but that's just not realistic on a very low income. The goal is to get this number as low as you can, and for me, $550 is it. Food, $175. This is where my daily habits and discipline make all the difference. This works out to about $43 a week. Groceries, $175. I don't eat out, ever. No restaurants, no coffee shops, not even fast food. Every single meal is cooked at home. My diet is simple and healthy, based on cheap staples. Oatmeal, rice, beans, lentils, potatoes, whatever vegetables are in season, and eggs. I'll buy chicken thighs when they're on a good sale. I also have a little container garden on my patio where I grow herbs, tomatoes, and peppers in the summer. SNAP benefits. I also applied for and get help from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP. Alabama has a simplified application for seniors, and this gives me an EBT card that helps my grocery budget a lot. It allows me to buy more fresh fruit and protein than I could on my own. This isn't something to be ashamed of. It's a resource I paid into my whole life, and it's a critical part of making this budget work. Transportation, $50 gas and maintenance, $50. I have a 15-year-old reliable car that's fully paid off. Since my town is small, I don't drive much. Maybe 20 to 30 miles a week for groceries, the library, that's about it. This $50 covers a tank of gas and lets me set a little aside for oil changes. A huge car repair would be an emergency, and that's what my little emergency fund is for. Having a car is almost essential out here, but using it as little as possible is the key. Healthcare, $100. This is a huge source of anxiety for retirees, so I had to have a solid plan. Medicare. My Part B premium is taken right out of my Social Security check before I ever see the money. Supplemental plan, out-of-pocket costs, $50. I qualified for a Medicare Savings Program, MSP. This is a state-run program that helps with out-of-pocket costs and was a total game changer. I still budget $50 a month for any copays for doctor visits or prescriptions. Some months I spend less, and that money just rolls over. Dental, vision, $50. Basic Medicare doesn't cover teeth or eyes. So I put $50 a month into a special savings envelope just for this. It's enough to pay cash for a cleaning once a year and slowly save up for new glasses every few years. It's slow going, but it's a plan. Communication and personal, $125. This is the catch-all for everything else. Phone, $30. I'm on a cheap prepaid plan. It gives me unlimited talk and text and a little bit of data. I use Wi-Fi at home or the library for almost everything else. Internet, $45. I have the slowest, most basic internet plan they offer. It's enough to check email, read the news, and watch some videos. Household personal supplies. $30. This is for everything from toilet paper and soap to laundry detergent and toothpaste. I buy store brands and stock up at sales. Entertainment, fun. $20. Yes, I actually budget for fun. This is my little bit of mad money. I might use it for a ticket to a high school football game, a new paperback, or yarn for my knitting hobby. It's not a lot, but having it as a line item is so important for my sanity. It's a reminder that this is about living, not just surviving. Grand total, $1,000. And that's it. Every single dollar has a job. There's no room for vacations or new clothes or fancy dinners. But it's also not a life of misery. It's a life of intention. This budget is my tool for empowerment. It's the framework that lets me live peacefully without the constant fear of debt. And it's proof that with careful planning and the right location, it can be done. 3. The lifestyle hacks. The budget is the skeleton. These lifestyle hacks, the daily habits and choices, are the flesh and blood that make it all work. This isn't just about saving a few bucks. It's a total mindset shift from being a passive consumer to being an active, resourceful person. This is where the real magic happens, turning a tight budget from a cage into a game you can win. My kitchen is my kingdom. My number one rule is that I don't buy food from restaurants. Ever. This one change alone saves me hundreds of dollars a month. Meal planning is law. Every Sunday, I plan my meals for the week based on the grocery store flyer and what's already in my pantry. This stops me from making impulse buys and wasting food, which are two of the biggest budget killers. Cook. Once, eat 3 times. I love batch cooking. If I make a big pot of bean soup or chili, I'll eat it for dinner, have it for lunch the next day, and freeze at least 2 more servings for later. My freezer is my best friend. Befriend ugly. Vegetables. I like to go to the farmer's market right before they close. A lot of times vendors will sell ugly, but perfectly good produce for a huge discount because they don't want to pack it all up. I've gotten bags of bruised apples and weird-shaped peppers for almost nothing. Never pay full price for pantry stuff. I have a small, organized pantry. When things I use all the time, like rice, pasta, canned tomatoes, or beans, go on a really good sale, I buy enough to last for a few months. Grow your own. Even with just a small patio, my container garden is a source of both joy and savings. A couple of tomato plants, some basil, and a pot of mint give me fresh flavors all summer for just the cost of a few seeds. Fun doesn't have to cost a fortune. Living on a budget doesn't mean you have to be bored. You just have to get a little more creative. The library is your best friend. The public library is the greatest free resource in any town. It's not just about books. I borrow movies, I listen to audiobooks, and I use their high-speed internet. My library also has free weekly events, book clubs, movie nights, guest speakers. I try to go to at least one a week. It's my main source of entertainment and seeing other people. Get outside. Walking is free. My town has a beautiful park with trails. I'm there several times a week. It's my gym and my therapy, all rolled into one. Nature doesn't charge for admission. Hunt for free events. I check the local town, church, and community center calendars all the time. You would be amazed at what's out there for free. Concerts in the park, high school sports games with cheap tickets, church potlucks, and local festivals. Pick up a hobby. I taught myself to knit by watching free videos online. I can make a whole scarf for just a few dollars in yarn. I do jigsaw puzzles I get from a puzzle swap group at the community center. A good hobby doesn't have to be an expensive one. Staying healthy on a budget. Prevention is everything. My best healthcare strategy is just trying to stay healthy. I walk every day. I eat well. I get enough sleep. It's no guarantee, of course. but it lowers my risk for a lot of expensive health problems. Know your benefits. I spent a lot of time learning exactly what my Medicare savings program covers and which doctors in town are in my network. I always ask for the generic version of any prescription. Being an informed patient saves you real money. The self-care fund. That little bit of money I save for dental and vision isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It's a promise to myself. Instead of waiting for a painful emergency, I'm proactively saving for the basics. The mindset shift. This is probably the most important hack of all. Practice gratitude. Every day, I make a point to focus on what I have, not what I don't. I have a safe home, good food, a peaceful life, and my own time. That mindset changes everything. A frugal life can feel like an abundant one when you appreciate the small things. Redefine rich. My old definition of a rich life was about money and stuff. My new definition is about having time, peace of mind, community, and no stress. By that definition, I'm wealthier now than I've ever been. The joy of saying no. I've learned the power of saying no. No to pressure to buy things. No to upgrades I don't need. No to the idea that I am what I own. It's incredibly freeing to just opt out of the rat race. These aren't just random tips. They're all connected. They're a deliberate way of living that not only makes my retirement possible, but makes it genuinely satisfying. Now, I know what you might be thinking. It's what my friends and family thought. This sounds nice, but what about the real world? What about emergencies? What about inflation? What about getting really sick? Those are all fair questions, and I had to face them head on. A plan isn't a real plan if it can't handle a little pressure. The big one. What about healthcare? This is the #1 fear for every retiree. My approach has a few layers. First, like I mentioned, I'm in a Medicare savings program, MSP. These state programs are designed for low-income seniors and help pay for premiums and other costs. Qualifying for this was a game changer. I seriously urge anyone in a similar spot to check their state's eligibility. Second, I focus on prevention. My daily walks and healthy diet are my first line of defense, but I'm a realist. A major health crisis, like a cancer diagnosis, would be incredibly tough. This is where the ultimate safety net comes in, being duly eligible for both Medicare and Medicaid. Medicaid can cover costs. Medicare doesn't, like long-term care. While I'm not on full Medicaid now, just knowing that safety net exists if my health takes a serious turn gives me crucial peace of mind. The system isn't perfect, but there are supports, and you have to know what they are. The inevitable. What about inflation? This is a tough one. When you're on a fixed income of $1,000 and the price of milk goes up, you feel it instantly. There's no cushion. My plan to fight inflation is all about being flexible. Squeezing the budget. My first move is to see where I can squeeze my already tight budget. Can I combine trips to save gas? Switch to a cheaper brand of oatmeal? Make my own vegetable broth from scraps? It's about being even more resourceful. The Social Security COLA. Social Security does have a cost of living adjustment, known as COLA, each year. It often feels like it's a step behind, but it does provide a small bump that helps take the edge off rising prices. My garden. My little garden becomes even more valuable when food costs go up. In a good year, I can freeze or can enough tomatoes to last through most of the winter. Learning basic food preservation is a powerful tool. The last resort. If inflation got really out of control for a long time, I have a backup plan, a little part-time work. A few hours a week at the local grocery store or library could bring in an extra $100 to $200 a month, which would be a huge relief for the budget. I don't want to do it, but knowing I could is a strategic advantage. the unexpected. What about emergencies? A blown car transmission or a sudden flight for a family emergency? These are the things that can destroy a budget. My plan is small but essential. The tiny emergency fund. Remember that extra $50 a month I try to save? It goes into a separate savings account that I never touch. It's a painfully slow way to save, but after 2 years, I have over $1,200 in there. It's not a fortune, but it's enough to cover a new set of tires or a major plumbing bill. It's my buffer against total panic. Community help. I'm not too proud to ask for help. My community has resources. There are local churches with emergency funds and community agencies that can sometimes help with a one-time utility bill. Knowing where to go before you need it is part of the plan. Let me be clear. My life isn't risk-free. My financial margin for error is razor thin. But I'd argue that living in a big city, drowning in debt, and stressing over rent that was more than my entire income was way riskier. My life now is built on control and resourcefulness. I've faced the what-ifs and built a simple, resilient life to handle them. If my story is hitting home for you, and if you're finding this helpful, please take a second to subscribe and ring that notification bell. I'll be sharing more about specific things like finding affordable healthcare and getting the most out of food programs. More importantly, I want to build a community here. So tell me in the comments, what's your biggest fear about retirement? Is it money? Healthcare? Being lonely? Sharing our struggles is the first step to figuring them out together. So, that's it. The whole unvarnished truth of how I retired on $1,000 a month in the United States. It started with fear and frustration, a feeling I know many of you have felt, but it turned into a journey of empowerment. The 3 pillars that hold it all up are location, a detailed budget, and a resourceful lifestyle. It took a big move to a low-cost state like Alabama. It demanded that I stick to a strict budget where every single dollar has a job. And it was all made possible by smart choices, cooking at home, finding free fun, and knowing where to find help. I want to be perfectly honest, this life isn't for everybody. If your dream retirement involves world travel or living in a big city, this isn't your blueprint. This is a plan for those of us who just want peace, security, and a quiet life without constantly worrying about money. Retiring on $1,000 a month isn't about what you give up. It's about the smart choices you make. It's about figuring out the difference between what society says you need and what you actually need to be happy. It's about trading a high-stress, high-cost life for the richness of having your own time and your own peace of mind. The experts who say it's impossible are just looking at national averages. They aren't looking at Harmony Creek, Alabama. They're not looking at the power of a library card or the satisfaction of a home-cooked meal. They've forgotten about community, resourcefulness, and a determined spirit. I am living proof that it can be done. My life is small and simple, but it is also full. I wake up every morning not with a knot of anxiety, but with a sense of calm. My time is my own. I'm not just surviving, I'm content.